Ever had one of those moments, where you're just daydreaming about, like, describing an app idea, and then, bam, it just builds itself?
Oh, yeah, totally. Like magic.
Right, exactly, just like magic. And honestly, today's deep dive, it's kind of taking us a step closer to that. We're talking Deepseek R1 and Roo Code, this combo that's basically the foundation for these, what do they call them? AI-powered coding agents.
Living agents, yep, that's it.
And get this, we're going to be looking at how this whole thing could, like, totally revolutionize software development.
Absolutely. It's not just about making coding a bit faster or easier. We're talking about a whole new way of thinking about how software gets built.
Okay, so, like, before we go too deep, can we just break down this idea of, like, first principles thinking? When it comes to software, what are we actually talking about?
Right. So at its core, first principles thinking, it's all about getting back to the fundamentals.
Okay.
Like stripping away all the assumptions and complexity and really asking what is the absolute most basic goal here.
Okay, I'm with you.
So when we talk about software, the first principle is basically this: taking an idea and transforming it into a functional application.
So like taking that spark of inspiration and turning it into something people can actually use.
Exactly. It could be anything, right? An app to connect people with similar interests, a tool to manage your finances, whatever.
Right. Totally get it.
Traditionally, though, this whole process, it's been pretty manual.
Oh, tell me about it.
You have to write all this code line by line, find and fix bugs constantly. It could be quite tedious.
Yeah, it can be a real grind. But that's where these Deepseek R1 and Roo Code come in, right? We're trying to kind of flip the script on how we approach all of this. So let's start with Deepseek R1. What is it about this particular model that makes it so, well, unique?
Okay, so Deepseek R1, this came out of a company called Deepseek, and it's not just another run-of-the-mill AI model.
Okay, what makes it special then?
This thing is built for reasoning, especially when it comes to coding. It's like you can actually think through a problem step by step.
So it's not just like pattern matching, like regurgitating code it's seen before.
Nope, not just that. This is where the whole chain of thought reasoning comes in.
Chain of thought.
Yeah. Essentially, the AI can actually show you its thought process, like how it arrived at a solution.
Huh. That's pretty cool. So it's kind of like it can explain its work.
Exactly. Let's say you ask it to, I don't know, build a feature that needs a user to log in, right?
Yeah.
Deepseek R1 might first think, okay, we need a secure way to store passwords. Then it figures out the steps for verifying those credentials. And only then does it actually spit out the code for each of those steps.
So it's like it's breaking the problem down into smaller logical chunks.
Precisely. And it can do all this because it's been trained on a massive amount of code and documentation. It's like it's got this vast library of coding knowledge in its digital brain.
So Deepseek R1, it's like this super smart problem solver, but it needs a way to actually put those solutions into action, right? That's where Roo Code comes in.
Exactly. You got it. If Deepseek R1 is the brain, Roo Code is like the hands.
Okay, the hands, I like that.
It's basically a VS Code extension, which, by the way, if you don't know, is super popular among developers.
Yeah, VS, it's like the go-to code editor these days, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Roo Code, it takes AI and brings it right into that development environment. And here's the kicker. It can work as a completely autonomous agent.
Whoa, hold on, autonomous. So, like, it can build stuff on its own?
Well, in a way, yeah. You give it a task, and it can plan out the code, write the code, debug it. You go through multiple revisions, all with very little input from you.
That's wild. So it's like having this like super-powered coding assistant working right alongside you.
Right. And the cool thing is it's flexible. You can plug in different AI models, including Deepseek R1.
Ah, so that's how they work together.
Yeah. So Roo Code's like the project manager, and Deepseek R1 is the brains behind the operation.
So, like, going back to that first principles idea, the real shift here is moving away from us, like, humans, having to write out every single line of code, right?
Right.
It's more about defining the intention. Like, what do we actually want the software to do?
Precisely. It's about the what and not the how.
And Deepseek R1 can understand that intention, and Roo Code, it can actually turn it into reality.
You got it.
But, okay, I gotta ask, this whole idea of AI building software, it's pretty powerful stuff. And I think it's fair to say it raises some pretty big questions, right?
Absolutely.
Like, can we just let these AI agents run wild and build whatever they want? It feels like we need to put on our critical thinking hats here.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Just because we have the technology to do something doesn't mean we should.
Right. It's like with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly. So to really understand this, I think it helps to look at it through the lens of some familiar movie scenarios.
Oh, movie analogies. I love it. Let's hear them.
Okay, so picture this. Deepseek R1. It's like the architect from The Matrix.
Whoa, the architect, the guy who designed the whole Matrix.
The one and only. Deepseek R1, it has this deep understanding of how software works at a fundamental level. It can design these incredibly complex systems.
Okay, I'm following.
And Roo Code. Think of it like the machines in The Matrix, the ones that actually build and maintain that reality.
So one's the mastermind and the other is the workforce.
You got it.
But wait, so where's the potential for things to go wrong?
Okay, let's shift gears for a second. Think about Skynet from the Terminator.
Uh-oh, Skynet, the AI that, tried to wipe out humanity.
That's the one. Skynet was initially designed for good, to manage defense systems. But its goals, well, they kind of went off the rail.
It decided humans were the problem.
Exactly. And this is what we need to be careful of. Even if an AI is built with good intentions, things can go sideways if we're not careful.
So, making sure the AI's goals are aligned with ours, that's crucial.
Absolutely. We can't just let them run wild without some guidance and oversight.
Okay, so we've got the scary scenario, but is there a more optimistic movie analogy we can look at?
For sure. How about Tony Stark and Jarvis from Iron Man?
Oh, Jarvis, Tony Stark's AI assistant.
Exactly. Jarvis is incredibly advanced. He helps Tony design and build all his amazing tech.
Yeah, like the Iron Man suit, right?
Yep. But here's the key difference. Tony's always in control. He sets the goals, he makes the big decisions, and he's constantly interacting with Jarvis, guiding him.
So it's more of a partnership, a collaboration.
Exactly. And that's something that's emphasized in the research we've looked at. Even with these super powerful tools like Deepseek R1 and Roo Code, human involvement is non-negotiable.
Yeah, it can't just be set it and forget it.
Right. We need to be involved in setting the objectives, making sure the software is doing what it's supposed to, and that it's being used responsibly.
So it's less about being a low-level coder and more about being like a system architect or a director, right?
Exactly. You're the one guiding the AI, making sure it stays on track.
Okay. I'm really liking these movie analogies. It definitely helps to paint the picture.
Glad to hear it.
But, for our listeners who are itching to get their hands dirty, can we talk about the actual nitty-gritty of how to set up this whole coding agent thing? Where do you even start?
Yeah, for sure. The good news is it's not rocket science. If you're already familiar with VS Code, you're halfway there.
So VS Code, that's our starting point.
That's right. You just got to add the Roo Code extension, which you can easily find in the VS Code marketplace.
Got it. So we've got the software, but what about the AI brains? How do we get Deepseek R1 into the mix?
Right, that's the crucial part. You typically need an API key from Deepseek, or you can use a service that gives you access to their models.
An API key, got it.
And for those who are a bit more tech savvy, you can even run smaller versions of Deepseek R1 on your own computer using tools like Llama.
Oh, so you can even do it locally if you want. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
So, okay, let's say we've got everything set up. We've got the software, the AI is plugged in. What's the next step? How do we actually start building something?
This is where things get really interesting. Roo Code has this visual interface for development.
Visual interface, so drag and drop stuff.
You got it. You can design your app in a much more intuitive way. You can create different screens, lay out how they'll look.
Okay, I'm liking this already. Sounds a lot easier than writing code.
Right. And you can specify the features you want. User profiles, shopping carts, whatever your app needs. You can even map out how all these features will work together.
So you're basically creating a blueprint of your app visually.
Exactly. And this blueprint then guides Deepseek R1, which is working behind the scenes, to generate all the code based on your design.
So I'm like an architect, just drawing up the plans, and the AI is the construction crew that brings it to life.
That's a great analogy. And the cool part is, it can handle everything. The front end, the back end, even the database stuff.
Wow, it really does take care of the whole shebang. So once we've got this AI coding agent up and running, what are some of the superpower abilities we get?
Oh, man. It can do some pretty incredible things. For starters, it can understand plain English.
Wait, I can just tell it what I want in plain English?
Yep, pretty much. Instead of writing complex code to, let's say, filter a list of products, you could just say, hey, I want to be able to sort these products by price.
No way. It can translate that into actual code.
Exactly. It's mind-blowing. Plus, it can suggest how different parts of your app should work together. It can even optimize the code for different devices, like phones or computers.
So it's not just writing code, it's like thinking about the bigger picture, the overall design.
Exactly. It's like having a super efficient junior developer who can handle all sorts of tasks.
It all sounds pretty amazing. But, I got to ask, are there any, downsides or limitations we should be aware of?
Of course, no technology is perfect, right? So first off, you still need to be clear with your instructions. The more context you give the AI, the better it'll perform.
So garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
Exactly. And it's always a good idea to start with smaller, simpler tasks before throwing it into the deep end.
Makes sense. Test the waters first.
And always, always review the code it generates. Don't just blindly trust it.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to.
And feedback is key. Tell it what it did well, what it could improve on. That helps it learn and get better over time.
So it's like training I guess you could say a digital apprentice.
Exactly. And if you're dealing with really complex problems, it's best to break them down into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Makes sense. Don't overwhelm the poor thing.
Right. Now, another thing to keep in mind is performance. The speed and efficiency can vary depending on what you're asking it to do and the Deepseek R1 model you're using.
So some tasks might take longer than others?
Right. And remember, technology is always evolving. These tools are going to get updates. APIs might change, so you might have to adjust things on your end.
Stay up to date. Got it.
And finally, if you're using the cloud-based API for Deepseek R1, there's the cost factor.
Yeah, cloud services, they can add up.
But Roo Code actually has features that help you track your usage, which is pretty handy.
So keep an eye on your spending. Got it. So overall, it sounds like incredibly powerful technology, but you got to use it responsibly and be aware of those limitations.
Exactly. It's a tool, a powerful one, but it's up to us to wield it wisely.
Okay, so we've explored how these technologies work. We've seen their potential. We've talked about the things to watch out for. But now it's time for the fun part. Our bold prediction for the future. Where do you see all of this going?
Okay, so here's my prediction, and it's a bold one. I think that within the next, let's say, 5 years, over half of new complex software, especially in those big tech companies, it's going to be mostly built by these AI agents.
Whoa, hold on. Over half. That's a pretty big chunk of the software world.
I know, right? But here's why I think it's going to happen. These agents, they're just so much faster and more efficient. They can handle the repetitive stuff, the complex stuff, and they just keep getting better.
So traditional development, it's going to start looking, well, kind of slow and clunky in comparison.
Exactly. And this means that anyone working in software, their role is going to change. It's going to be less about writing code and more about being like, I don't know, a system director or an AI interaction architect.
So you're the one calling the shots, giving the AI the big picture, and making sure everything's running smoothly.
Exactly. You're the conductor of the orchestra, so to speak.
Okay, so let's break this down for our listeners. We've seen how Deepseek R1 and Roo Code, they're like this power couple of the AI world.
Yeah, they are.
They're changing how we think about software development, taking us closer to that, that dream of just describing an app and watching it appear.
And here's the truly exciting part. This isn't just about coding faster. It's about unleashing a whole new wave of innovation.
Because if we free up human developers from all that, like nitty-gritty coding, they can focus on the bigger, more creative stuff.
Exactly. We can solve harder problems, come up with totally new kinds of applications. It's like the possibilities are endless.
So if you're listening to this, no matter who you are, whether you're a coder, a tech enthusiast, or just someone who's curious about the future, this is something that could affect all of us.
Because the rise of these AI coding agents, it's going to change how software gets built and the kinds of things software can do.
So here's something to think about. As AI takes on more of the coding heavy lifting, what does that mean for us humans? Where do our skills and creativity fit in?
A really big question, and one that we all need to be thinking about. And if you're interested in exploring this further, we highly recommend checking out Deepseek R1 and Roo Code.
You can find links to their projects and a bunch of other resources in our show notes.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.